now that we've kind of entered that official correction territory, a lot of people start wondering, okay, if the market comes out of this, AI is still, what everyone is saying is kind of in its infancy. So do we go back to the Nvidias and the chips and the air conditioning, the servers, all of this that was working so well in this last uptrend? Or do you think we need new names? So before we go into individual stocks, maybe let's hit that broad subject real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it would be nice to go back to the names that have treated everyone so well, and everyone has that recency bias. And, I brought up Nvidia in particular because, it's been a monster stock for a long time, and it's had prior big corrections. This was a massive correction right here from this peak of, $35,
65% or something
down to 13. People forget that. Yeah, 65%. And same story. It made a higher high above those moving averages, and it was up and away. Now where are we? We're making lower highs and lower lows. So, there's the phrase that I always like, Justin, and you've heard me say it, is if they don't scare you out during that 65% decline, they will often wear you out as the stock has to rebuild. So It's not likely that Nvidia is going to see a V bottom and just go back to new all-time highs. That is highly unusual. So what we're looking for is, what's the typical course? How does it typically work? Well, if we put an anchor off this low, maybe that's our 65% correction. I don't think it's going to go down to there, but you know what? For every time the market surprises me, if I had $1, I'd never have to trade again. But maybe it drops all the way down to that level. One, don't be buying on the way down, because just you think it's a good deal at 101. Wait till you get to 70. You're going to be thinking, oh, I missed it. I chased it. I was the dumb money. And, instead, what's more likely to happen is we're going to get these longer term moving averages to flatten out. It's going to either scare you out, or it's going to turn sideways for, 3-6 months, and then buy it over here. You don't have to buy the low. The low is only known in hindsight, right? But everyone tries to buy here, and I'm buying the new low. I'm so smart. It goes up for 3 days, and then it makes a lower high and a lower low. So it'd be nice to see Nvidia lead again. It'd be nice to see Meta lead again. But look at this magnitude of this rally. I think we need to see some more of this. At least, if not a bigger price correction, then maybe just sideways through time as it rebuilds and just wastes everyone's time. That's the best case scenario for these types of stocks. But I think, unfortunately, the more likely scenario is we're going to see more prolonged declines because we're in a structural period like SMCI. People get excited about these rallies, and you can trade these rallies, but SMCI is likely going to, take some time. Maybe it does this and, does a bunch of this stuff. But once that range tightens up, the moving average, then you want to be a buyer over here. And it's no different than what all of these markets have done over and over again. And that's just the way the cyclical nature of money flows through these markets. You've got to give them time.
And so when do you kind of get to the point where you think that either the pain has been enough to kind of shake those people out, as you said, or the time has been long enough to wear those people out to kind of give these a chance for success? Or again, if there are stocks that are not in this position where they've come up so much and now they kind of need to course correct, and there's a new crop, what is it that you look for kind of like I don't want to say the all clear signal, but at least hey, you know what? It's time for me to shift to a little bit more of a bullish posturing than bearish.
So the stocks will lead first, of course, because that's how relative strength emerges out of a market, is the stocks that pop up first. When the market is still doing this over here, you'll see there at the same time there will be some stocks that are instead doing at that same time, they'll be doing this, and they'll be leading the market. So once we see more and more stocks doing this type of action, even while the market is turning sideways, that's our clues. That's when relative strength matters. Right now, relative strength recently has just been, we'll save that for next week until we sell it. Has been, but
and that's true even of some of the defensive stuff. I mean, like, Altria Group. You can't get more defensive than tobacco. That was looking like something that was holding up. The relative strength was very good, and then here you are down 3% today. Where again, I don't know that this is gonna continue going down, but it certainly seemed like we've seen this so many times where something that's holding up and holding up and holding up, and then whack, it gets knocked down.
It's interesting, right, where it's coming into. I just want to point this out because we've got that thick blue year-to-date anchored VWAP, the orange anchored VWAP from the election, and the 50-day moving average all coming in right here. So 55 looks like an important level for Altria Group. But a stock I bought today, Justin, and I didn't buy a lot of it, for a couple reasons. One, we're in a bearish environment. Two, I don't think it's going to be a leader. It's ADT, and I didn't read anything about their fundamentals. I'm looking at the chart, and I believe this is ADT, the security company,
right?
And it's it's been moving higher. It's got a pattern of higher highs and higher lows, but it's doing it such a slow motion, right? It's breaking higher. It looks good on multiple time frames, but this isn't going to be, what are they going to fix in the world that's going to make the stock do this? Not likely, right? So, you look at the hot IPOs. What was the big one was Newsmax.
Newsmax, right?
You can't chase that. I mean, this stock was down 77% today, and anyone who was buying the dip in here, thinking they had a deal. All afternoon in particular, right? Even on a 2-minute time frame, if you look in here, we had a very clear pattern of lower highs and lower lows, all the way from 150 down to 50. So 100 points, uninterrupted downtrend. Yeah, there were a couple little bounces in there, but they were insignificant.
Right.
The sum of the declines is greater than the sum of the rallies. You're in a downtrend. Your odds are better for shorting or just leaving it alone.